Hey everyone, Boardgame Brody here with Meeple Mountain. I have a copy of Artisans of Splendent Vale. It's a cooperative storytelling game by Renegade Games. And this is a fantasy game where players choose from 4 unique characters with different interests, different abilities, and a different focus. Players will read a little portion about each character and choose one to develop as they play throughout the game. Each character has a fairly hefty book assigned to them, and each and every book includes the main story, but will also include sections that belong to that character only, with their views and their own thoughts, and really what's going on with them individually, including elements to upgrade that character and give the story that personal touch specific to who you are playing as. After players choose characters, just make sure when playing the first time that you find their starting cards, as each character has some type of beginning setup. This is listed in the front of that character's book, just to go back and make sure you're good to go. So starting the game is actually done pretty easy. It's a game that's pretty heavy on the reading. I mean, it's a storytelling game, and look at this book here. I mean, it's pretty thick. But you will start reading, and whenever it shows the symbol of one of the characters who the player has chosen to play in the game with, then they will read that portion that is not in any other book besides their own. So players can take turns narrating the main text, but whenever there is a character-specific text marked by their symbol, then they will read that, and you know this because you will see their symbol in the book without the text following it. But then they will read the text, adding specifics and details that are important for that character. And then you will come to points where you will make decisions, and you will discuss what you want to do as a team. You will choose one of the choices, and then it will tell you what to do after choosing it. Most times it will be to turn to a certain page to continue reading, to continue the story, but other times it might be like gaining something. Well, so what can you gain? Well, this might be explained easier by going over the character sheet. So the front shows any potions that you might have. Most likely there's a card that explains the details, but someone has to be actually carrying the potion, and they will write it down right here on their sheet. Now, you will end up in combat sometime or another, and with that you will gain damage when hit, and when your damage gets to your toughness level, then you will gain an injury. The first time anyone gains an injury, they will follow the steps in the rulebook, which will create an injury deck. Later in the game, whenever someone gains an injury, they will take an injury card. By having damage equal to or above their toughness, they will take one of these cards, and this section will list your injuries with the name and the effect that will happen. Now, you can heal in the game and even heal enough to erase the effects of some of these injuries that you have gained, but you will never erase the name of the injury, as you can gain the same type of injury later in the game, and sometimes that will grant a worse effect or a longer lasting effect. Then you have a section of different actions that you can take during the action scenes, and this I will go over later in this video when we're going over the action scenes. You will then have a section for records, to-do lists, components that you can gain in the game. Since this is Farah's sheet, tailoring is huge, and these components can be gathered and used to craft items. This section is for stickers, which are the designs found to later use components to craft those items. And then each character has a different grid to upgrade their character. One experience point is used to fill in one node, starting at the character's player icon. Once a big circle is gained, that will give that character the listed ability. Now, other character sheets are different and specific to that character, so instead you might be looking into ruins or to potions, or maybe into increasing your skills. Every character has a different thing. Also, as you continue your story, you will fill out your adventure log. It is best and easiest to play a session that represents a day in the game, and each day has a section where you will write notes of what happens in the game. Don't worry, the book will prompt you into what to write, but you will need to know what happens, as later in the game it might ask you if a certain event occurred, and it will change your choices and things that you can do in the game. So it is a log, but also a record. On the other side is a map, and each scenario you will choose a place to go on the map, which will continue the story. And as you continue, you will have more and more choices to choose from, but after you finish at a location and you do everything that that location offers, then it'll tell you to mark it off on your map. Anyways, while you play, you will perform action scenes. Action scenes will be where you fight, but not always. Sometimes you will have other objectives to do, but yes, fighting as well. These use a spiral-bound book that will form a map, and you will read the setup printed on the page it tells you to go to, and you will form a pool of dice that you and your team will be sharing to perform actions with. You will follow the initiative track on the top of the book to know whose turn it is, and on your turn, you will add 3 dice, rolling them to the shared pool, and then perform 2 actions. And actions usually cost the shown dice to be spent from the pool of dice to take the action. But sometimes you might add the plus sign, the die, which is a boost, to your chosen action, and you will follow the actions on your character sheet or on a card that you have. But a boost lets you move. POW symbol lets you attack usually. A shield symbol can be used for defense. Lots of times this can be spent as a reaction or when someone is attacking you and they're trying to deal you damage. The plus sign makes whatever other action you choose more powerful. I like using them with my attacks, but can be used with any other actions as well. This diamond action is a wild and can be used as any other icon. And then when a combo boost and plus is used, it can be used for either a boost or a plus, or you can use it as both if you take the movement action and then it's automatically boosted. So now after you do your 2 actions, and then you will continue according to the initiative track. Enemies activate by rolling a die and then performing the action associated with that result. Conditions can or will be applied depending on actions triggered during the game. There is a list of what these do exactly in the rulebook, but they will be added to the initiative track so that you can remember the changes that will occur. Let's see now. When moving, there will be normal terrain, which is spaces that will be normally to move in. Difficult terrain, which are areas surrounded by a blue dashed lines. And you can still move into these spaces, but it requires 2 movement to move out of a space with that difficult terrain. Then there will be elevation, which you can never move on. These areas have yellow lines, and if you have to move down, you will suffer 2 damage. Pits end your movement when falling down them, and you suffer 2 damage, and you can't attack when in a pit, and it requires an extra movement to move out of the pit. Lastly, there is impassable terrain with a white line surrounding it, and you cannot move there. So the action scenes are fun because they give you some action on the table, making the storytelling more meaningful. So we have the reading, the story part, which is great. Then you have the action scenes, but then there is an exploring the maps and the books. And you will find numbers printed on the maps that will lead you to another page that will help you find stuff or explore certain areas. Sometimes your book will have a number that no one else has because it's a place to explore specifically for your character. But then there are numbers shown in all the books to form the main things that you need to explore and what you need to find. So it's fun to talk about to see what numbers you have that no one else has and which numbers everyone has as well. Bookmarks will help you to mark pages while doing this, but it will lead you back if it keeps breaking off in different segments, so don't worry about getting too lost in the pages. As you get to the end of the day during a scenario, you will most likely draw interlude cards, and you will add cards to this pile throughout the game, but they will give you options to choose from that will help you in your quest and help you with continue your personal story with your character. You will play the game until the story ends after a number of scenarios, and you will have enjoyed a huge story that is full of adventure, and you will see your character change and develop throughout the entire game. And, well, that's Artisans of Splendent Vale. And this is just a really surprising game for me as I have been playing it through with my daughter who is 7. I'd say the reading at times is hard for her, so I think that's why it has that 14 plus age on the game. But she is pretty accelerated in her reading, and we just treat it as learning, so she will ask what certain words mean, and I can explain it to her. Besides that, she does a great job in making decisions in the game and follows the storyline with no problems. You know, we actually started a campaign of Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, and it was just a little bit too much for her as far as figuring out strategy and how to use her cards. But this game right here is just so much better for us because she can make her own choices during the action scenes, and she picks numbers out of the maps. And then, you know, it both makes sense for us. She does good at reading. We take turns reading. It just really works with us. We have liked developing our characters, with mine being so different from hers, and just seeing how that works out as well. There are 4 different characters in the game, so we're planning on playing the game through again, playing as the other 2 characters, and we'll make different choices and have different characters to develop as well, and we think it really will be enjoyable doing that again as well. When first figuring out the game, I'd say give the first scenario some good time, as we had to look up a lot of things to figure out how everything works, but after that, everything else just clicks, and you will only end up looking up specifics in the rulebook when you know it's in there and just confirming what's in there. Now, the action scenes are definitely fun, and it actually puts the game into the game, while the huge, thick books gives the game the story, and it does a great job on that as well. More importantly, the game focuses on each character, and so when playing the game, if you're not using some of the characters, there's a system on how you read. It skips those characters' storylines, and so you are only reading and discovering whoever is playing in the game with you right then and there. So this is like a choose-your-own-adventure book with a better storyline and actual choices that change your characters, and then it's combined with more visual maps that let you explore and see the adventure visually. This lets you gain items and find interests specific to your character. Then lastly, the adventure scenes adds in that excitement and gaming elements that are similar to like an RPG, but you as a group will be working together to take actions to get the best outcome that you can through what you have. Now, you will get injured, and that's just part of the game. There are potions that you can use or choices that you can take to help you heal, but really everything in the game points to your character progression and changing the characters according to the experiences that they undergo throughout the game. For me, if it wasn't for the way the character changes, then I don't think I'd be as impressed about the game as I am. Not to say that the other elements in the game are bad, as they are also very superb, but for me personally, I just like the fact that I can use items and find to craft things and make decisions on how to better make my character. And then I also like the game opens up. It gives you choices that might change other things, and it'll tell you to write main events that occur in your log, but can be looked back upon and asked if something happened or not, and that'll change the future as well. Now, I'm not an RPGer, I'm a board gamer, and I've tried some RPG games, but they just didn't really give me what I wanted, or they make me work more than I wanted to. But this game is what I want for an RPG. Again, this is for me personally, so I get a great story in this game. I get my character development that I really like. I get visuals to help me feel the story. And as a board gamer, this is the game that I want to play as an RPG. This is it. So get ready for an adventure with your family and friends in Artisans of Splendent Vale, a cooperative storytelling campaign game by Renegade Games. Again, this is Boardgame Brody, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Stick around and check out some other board game reviews to see what you might want to get to the table.